Live.
Yeah, is live. Okay.
Okay. Can we see how anyone is viewing it?
Sorry.
Okay. Right. So to all of those, yeah, to all of those out there that are watching this, welcome. We are the external representation group for IFMSA Europe, and plus a few extras, which is Leith, who's been running during the past. Can we see how anyone is doing? So
Sorry.
all of those. Ooh, it's me. I was watching it myself. My bad. Right. So I was just introducing the people that we have here from the small working group who's been involved since the beginning are Christian Koop from BBMD Germany, and we have Stefano from CISM Italy. Then we also have Leith and Bali from Medicine UK, who's been sort of like hanging along. He's actually not an official member, but we appreciate his work anyway. And then we have Diogo, of course, who is the RD Europe elect. So we're really happy that he's here too. We've shared with the NMO presidents and on the European server and on Facebook the manual that we have created with you guys for you guys, which is called the TTIP manual. And that is the document that we'd like to go through today and give you sort of a bit of the background on what we've been thinking and why we've been working on this and what the idea behind the manual itself is. So first of all, the background is that we saw, me and Alberto especially, the RC Europe or the regional coordinator for Europe at this term saw a need for prioritizing in the external representation, and therefore we started doing this in Europe. And we had this whole process where the NMOs were both proposing what topics we should work on, and also voted upon what they thought our priorities should be. And one of the three priorities for IFMSA Europe this term was the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, also called TTIP. And therefore, we've been working on this, and we also formed this small working group where a lot of the people in the small working group have been working on TTIP. So we, at EURICME, we discussed this topic a lot, and we had some capacity building sessions, we had discussions, and we also had this proposed policy paper, which is sort of like a regional background information document to the current policy statement on trade and health, which is for the whole of IFMSA. So yeah, we adopted this regional policy paper at the end of EURICME, and we were really happy about that. But of course, our work didn't stop there. So we created a sort of like a stakeholder analysis, a quite thorough one within our small working group. And the main stakeholders that we identified that we wanted to work with now were the NMOs, so you guys, and as well the MEPs, or the members of the European Parliament, as these are the ones that are making the decisions and going through all the negotiation rounds of this trade agreement. Yes, and that leads me on to someone who will give you a bit of background knowledge behind TTIP. And I believe I will start out with Leith, and then maybe Christian will come in a bit later in the background process. Okay, so Leith, please.
Great. Thank you very much, Mary, for the introduction, as well as all of the hard work and the background that has gone into this. So to tell you a little bit more briefly, hopefully, about the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, or TTIP. This is a trade agreement that is being negotiated between the European Union and the United States of America. So, as has been recognized a lot in recent years, trade has a real impact on our health, and that is what we're most interested in. So, the effect of trade agreements includes, for example, how our health services are organized. It impacts on our food systems, where our food comes from, and what standards our food follows. Similar things with the environment. Also, obviously, how goods are traded is a very important part. Um, Trade agreements also deal with things such as intellectual property rights, which have a real impact on the on obviously pharmaceutical industry and how available drugs are, and access to medicines is a real issue here. So the concerns that were raised around the TTIP being negotiated was that, well, first of all, a lot of the negotiations were being done behind closed doors, and there wasn't enough input from civil society, from people like us, into the negotiations. And this transparency issue raised a lot of alarm amongst people like us who are concerned about how this will affect us. So the consultations were being done much more with corporations, which historically don't always have our best interests in terms of our health at heart, rather than with stakeholders such as us. So another important topic to kind of get a little bit deeper into the real impacts of trade agreements. One, as I mentioned already, would be how our health services are organized. So one thing that we will be talking about a lot is market access. So we know that equitable healthcare and access to healthcare is a very important issue with people's health, and fragmented healthcare that is privatized, that is marketized, is proven to be less equitable, and where people have a lot, it's a lot less easy to access healthcare that is marketized. And TTIP, as as we know from leaks and from other information from negotiators and stakeholders, has the potential to open up health services to marketization, which can be very dangerous for access to healthcare. There is a similar problem with regards to education, where the marketization of education can limit access to education in an equitable way. And it's important to note at this stage that we are looking at this from a social determinants of health perspective. So obviously our education has an impact on our health, our environment has an impact on our health. Everything, our social and political environment around us are very important. So this would be examples of market access and how they affect health. Another part would be what we call regulatory cooperation. So this is a very technical term, it's a lot of jargon, but to explain what that would do, this touches on important aspects of trade agreements, such as what is done with our food and what is done with our environment. So, for example, to give a specific example of how things operate in the European Union differently to how they operate in the United States, food in the European Union has to be proven to be safe before corporations are allowed to trade it and distribute it to consumers in Europe. In the United States, a different approach is taken, where any food can go on the market unless it's proven to be dangerous. Now, this leads to a lot of food further down the line being pulled from the market, and this already can damage health. So regulatory cooperation tries to make the standards between two different sides or many different sides the same. So the danger here is something that is called the race to the bottom, which is where instead of raising the standards and ensuring that standards are protected and raised, things actually get worse. And instead of the US adopting better standards, the EU adopts worse standards. and that can introduce foods that are worse for our health into the European markets. There is a similar argument being made for environmental services, waste disposal, and other things such as that. Workers' rights follow a similar argument. So regulatory cooperation to reduce working standards are also a danger. Finally, there will be something that you may have heard about before, which is called ISDS, which stands for the Investor State Dispute Settlement. What this is a mechanism that is used in trade agreements all over the world, and this mechanism is used to ensure that investors feel safe, that their investments will be protected. Now, this has the danger of sometimes undermining the legislation being made by governments to protect health. A really key example of this is where tobacco companies such as Philip Morris are able to sue governments, like they are suing Australia at the moment, for adopting policies with regards to smoking laws that impact on sales of tobacco, and this obviously is very good for health, but is bad for Philip Morris's investment and profits. And ISDS mechanisms give companies like Philip Morris the right to challenge governments with regards to good public health policies. And that is the final part that is cross-cutting to all of the issues that I've already mentioned. I kept this very brief. I apologize if it was too fast, but we are welcoming questions, so make sure that you ask them if there's anything that you want us to talk more about.
Yes, thank you, Leif. This was very comprehensive, but I'm wondering if Christian has something to add, or do you think this is enough? Christian?
Well, this was a really good briefing. If there's something to add, I would add that TTIP as a free trading zone between the USA and the European Union will build one of the most powerful economic trading zone in the world, and thereby also setting a lot of standards that the rest of the world has to adapt to. So there's a good possibility that the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership might cause problems to countries that are not included, which is going to be quite a few, because they sometimes costly have to adapt their standards to what the TTIP is setting them to. So we also have this problem. For the ISDS, you might have heard, this is like an extra information, but a very interesting one. The investor state dispute settlements that a company can use to sue a government, like Leif said, Philip Morris is suing Australia. I know that is suing Uruguay on tobacco. The European Union said they were not going to support this mechanism anymore. They want to introduce a transparent court system, which would like put the lawsuits to public scrutiny, so everybody knows what's going on, which is a good thing. But here comes the interesting thing. The European Union also has a trade agreement with Canada, which is called CETA, and they still have the original evil investor state dispute settlements, and 80% of the American companies have also a second daughter company in Canada, so they can just go through Canada and then sue the European governments nevertheless. So this is something that is also important to note. Yeah, this is as much as I would have to add. And okay, then there's a last thing concerning human resources for health. If it's easier for doctors or medical staff because of the trade agreement to move from one country to another. This could create possibly create shortages of doctors in either the EU or USA, depending on where it's more attractive for doctors to work. Yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you, Christian. I'm wondering if someone wants to give an update on where the negotiations are now and when an adoption is expected, or to what point it is postponed to. Christian, maybe?
So right now, so the question is where the negotiations are right now. I think they are about to join the 10th round. The next one is going to be in Washington. The last one has been in Brussels, and there's still a lot of things that are not ready. For example, food and agriculture are not ready at all. It's still a very emotional debate between the European Union and the USA. Although they are in that 10th round, they still couldn't figure out how to do the legislation in food and agriculture. It's so emotional because, well, it's food, and we all. I always say I personally eat every day, and it's like this accounts for a lot of people if they can, and yeah, that's probably because it's so emotional. It's about the usage of antibiotics. It's about how you treat animals. It's about if you give them hormones. If you use genetically modified organisms. If you label your food, so you know where this food is from or what ingredients it has. So it's a lot of things that Europeans and US Americans have different opinions on. And this is potentially one of the most difficult things to negotiate. Apart from that, the feeling right now is that at the last negotiations in Brussels, I was attending the stakeholders event again, and I was only in one room, which was about services. I think that was the name. And they were talking about services, and one thing was that there's still a debate going on, but some of the critical voices have decreased a little bit. That was my feeling, which is not good.
Right. So a decrease in the critical voices is, from our point of view.
There was one person in particular who was very fiercely against TTIP, and he has silenced down and said, "Well, we work together so well." So his tone has gotten a little less aggressive, which is, I think, it was remarkable. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Then I know that Blaise has a bit of update about the latest vote as well. So Blaise, please.
Yeah, so the latest time that there was something about TTIP in the European Parliament, talking from a European perspective, was back in June, so around 3 months ago, and unfortunately the European Parliament gave another green light to continue negotiations, and this moves TTIP closer to being accepted. However, there is something that we can be encouraged about, which is that during that same day, there should have been another vote about TTIP, specifically around ISDS, the investor-state dispute settlement that I was talking about earlier. That vote was actually postponed, and there are various different stories about why it was postponed, and one of them is around that pressure from groups like us led to that delay. It would be nice to believe that that was true. Even if it wasn't, it's an important thing that this is very controversial, and the European Parliament is recognizing that. So another thing that we can be encouraged by is also looking at the original timeline for TTIP and now looking at the new one. So when TTIP was first kind of launched in terms of negotiations, the proposed timeline was that it should have been completed in December 2014. Now you will all notice that we are 9 months on and we still have no final agreement, and it is widely recognized that this is due to civil society groups raising the alarm bells and saying, hang on a second, we're not happy with this and we want to have a say in this. Then the timeline was extended to December 2015, but now, well, we're 3 months away from December 2015 and it still doesn't look like there's going to be a final agreement. So, and now the timeline is unclear as to when this is expected to be finalized. So this is something we can be very encouraged by, that there are, we are forcing this to be delayed time and time again. There are aspects that have been changed due to campaigning. So this is very good news, and we should continue our work to make sure that this trade agreement doesn't harm our health.
Thank you, Leif. Yeah, so as well, in relevance to our work and the work that we're encouraging you and the NMOs to do, this means that we will probably have some time to be advocating for the specific things that we're calling for, as well as improving the health of populations instead of adopting a trade agreement which potentially could harm the health of populations. So yeah, there's room, and it seems that it's going to happen. Later, or the potential adoption of the TTIP is going to happen later than we anticipated. Okay, so I think that will be it for about background for TTIP, and then moving on to the objectives of our of this manual and of the work that we would like you guys to do. I will again give the word to sorry. So I'm just going to repeat this, right? Now we're going to move on to the part about objectives in our manual, and therefore I'll again give the word to Leif.
Okay, I promise I won't be talking for much longer. You must be bored of my voice by now. So we decided, we kind of had a long discussion about this, actually. This was a difficult discussion about what should our objectives be. This isn't something that many people have done before. So coming up with the manual was one thing. Trying to assess, well, what can this manual achieve was even more difficult. But we also think that this is potentially an effective tool. It is also something that lots of politicians are engaged about, and they know that their constituents and the people that they are supposed to represent care very much about this, and so generally they are quite keen on ensuring that they respond to their constituents. So we what we want is to make sure that TTIP has a positive impact on health in Europe. So, and we want to work together to achieve this. Those are the two important things. There are two important groups that we need to talk to with regards to this and engage on the issue. One is you, our European members, people who are, European students who are interested in the topic. If you are engaged, then we have a lot of force behind this campaign. And then once we are all motivated to work together, then we need to talk to the members of European Parliament, the people who represent us at a European level, because they have the final say about this. So the main thing that we want you to talk to your members of European Parliament about is that trade agreements must promote health and should not harm health. based on the main points that we addressed earlier around market access, regulatory cooperation, and the ISDS. We have a few objectives. They are to have, hopefully, we think, from the responses that we have received to the correspondence we've made with our MEPs, members of European Parliament, hopefully 3/4 of you will receive replies to your concerns, saying, with your representative saying what do they think of the issue. Hopefully, a third of you will get at least in further contact, and you'll be able to discuss it with them, maybe even set up a meeting with them. And we would like to try to ensure that we get our way on this issue, that we make sure that our health is going to be protected on this issue. What we want is to aim for around 2/3, 70% of MEPs to support our position, which is protecting health. This is something they should be doing already, so it should be easy to convince them, hopefully. And hopefully we'll have half of you engaged on this issue in terms of our internal dialogue. Hopefully half of the European member organizations of the IFMSA will be engaged on this issue. And that will be up to you, so I hope that you will engage with us on this.
Thank you very much, Leif. And then the question goes, what members of the European Parliament should I contact now that you're sitting down and wanting to work on this? And what is important to realize is that the MEPs are divided into several clusters. The parliamentary group, the country group, and the working committee. And this means that for TTIP, that the relevant groups are the ENVI group and the intergroup. And the ENVI group is the group that works on environment, public health, and food safety. And the intergroup works on international trade. So you see how both of these are relevant to the agreement. And to figure out what MEPs from your country or even from your national region that you're in, we have a guide on how to contact your MEP. And maybe I just want to give you a bit of background on why we think this way is efficient and effective, will be effective. So we believe that if people say that I am from your country and I have these and these and these views, I am a voter, I've been voting for you, or something like that, you are my representative in the EU, and I wish for you to take my opinions into concern or consideration. We believe that this is more effective than the whole IFMSA emailing each and every one of the MEPs, and we believe that you can be more personal and sort of more relevant to the MEPs themselves. So therefore now also I believe Christian, just to make sure, yes, we'll go through the text on how to contact your MEP and give you a bit of like tips and tricks. Christian?
Okay, just had to turn on my microphone. Okay, so there are several ways on how to contact your MEP. Maybe you know your MEP, then it's going to be very easy for you, and you already have a personal relationship, which is very good. The second option is you don't know your MEP. I don't know my MEP either right now, but there's a solution for this. There's a website you can go to, and the link, we posted the link on the manual, I think. Yes, okay, let's just assume it's there. If it's not, then we're gonna give it to you. Yes, okay, it's there. The link, you can find the link on the manual to a website, and on this website you can filter like the most relevant members of the European Parliament for you. You can tell the website where you're from, then you will get the results of which MEPs in your region. You can filter for which MEPs are interested in public health, and so and so. And if you found the MEP you want to contact, which has like the best background in public health, in health in general, in trade, and even is from your region, then there's again things you can do. You can either call them, but they most probably won't have time for you because they are pretty busy people, I would guess. You can meet them in person if you know them, but let's assume you don't know them and you don't manage to call them. Then, well, send them an email. An email is not always read by the MEPs, but that's actually the things they have to respond to. So you can write an email to them and where you explain like what your concerns are, who you are first, what your concerns are, and which the member of the European Parliament should do. And to make this easier for you, we provided you with a sample letter, which you can also find. It's on page 5 of the manual. By the way, Marie, can we send a link to the manual so that everyone can click on it if they are interested in it?
Yes, it has been shared on Facebook groups, both the European region one and the SCOF one, as far as I know, as well as the emails I've been sending out and the European President's Facebook group. So I think it's out there.
Okay.
But I will share it on the Skype group as well. Thank you.
Okay, so I also think it should be out there, and I think I'll just read the mail so you get the idea what we would propose you could write to them. Dear Mr. or Mrs., my name is Christian Koop and I'm a medical student from Hanover. This is where I'm from, in Germany, and I have some very serious concerns about the potential negative impact of the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership on public health. So you write to the topic, bam bam, who you are, what your concerns are. And they know, okay, one of those TTIP persons. And then you go on. I present this on behalf of my national member organization. So you say, okay, this is not only me, this is my whole organization of medical students organizations in my country. So there's a lot of people behind me. And I'm also a member of the International Federation of Medical Students Association. So you put weight on who you are. And then you say, okay, it has come to my attention that you work with TTIP, and I would like to discuss this with you. Depending on the current state of the negotiations, you can say the concerns that you can find in the position paper of the European region. Some of them we listed here. Increased marketization of health services, and also Leith referred to it earlier, which makes it more difficult for everyone to access them equally. Reduced food and environmental standards in Europe, because the standards from the US, in some cases, not always, are a little bit lower than the European ones. And empowering corporations to sue governments because of the international investor-state dispute settlements, those courts that don't operate for the public, but in security. And again, to Marie, how do we provide everyone with a link to the position paper of the European region of IFMSA towards TTIP? Can everyone very easily access the we made? Yes. Okay. So in case you don't, just post it here on YouTube or something like this, then you can check it out.
Actually, it was in the manual originally, but I see that I have updated it, and actually it is gone now. But I will add it again and update it on the link. Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Okay, cool. And yeah, and then you can close the letter with attached behind the position paper we have, in case they're interested in reading through it, and then say, if there are any questions, please contact me. You can provide your cell phone number or your email address, and then wish yours sincerely, your name, Christian Koop. And yeah, so this is the part about how you could contact a member of the European Parliament. It's really just try them to tell them who you are, who you represent, which is medical, and your concerns. Attach a position showing that you are really serious about this. And if you, okay, so I talked a lot already. Is there anything you want to add?
I think, thank you, Christian. It was really nice introduction. And I think, as Christian said, I just want to repeat that it's important that this can be done in many ways, and that the email is there for you to use and abuse as you like. You can copy it more or less, or you could write your own email based on the bullet points that we listed above, which we believe that you in the NMOs will know best what kind of approach and how to phrase the sentences and the words most effectively and most appropriately as well, is in your case. Furthermore, moving on from that, if there's no other comments. Yeah, good. We are working on setting up a mentorship program, and this is we've been working on it where some experts would be available to NMOs that had questions about TTIP and how to do advocacy work, but for now this is not completely set up, and we will get back to you if we get this finalized. If anyone has any questions about this, feel free to either contact me or Christian Koop, who's also been working on this. Just moving on a bit to in the manual, there is also a topic which is called other opportunities, and here we just want to highlight that there are so many things that can be done. We are suggesting to contact your MEPs as the first step, as this is a really efficient way, and maybe addressing the actual decision makers is what we think would have the biggest impact at this state of the negotiations. But of course, there are lots of other things that could be done, such as writing letters to the national ministries or government, creating campaigns, either like in-person campaigns, like walking on the street and that kind of stuff, or online, or like social media campaigns, or giving lectures, or having debate nights about TTIP and health, or like there are many other things that can be done. So it's only like your imagination that sets the limits. This is just our suggestion for how to start. In line with what was said about the emails and what if the MEP will answer, if you get in touch with or send an email to an MEP, we would really hope that you would provide us with the information about what MEP did you contact, how many times did they get back to you, all of these. We have like a whole list of things that we would like to know, so that we can gather some knowledge and some input about are we being effective? Are we actually able to do something about things in IFMSA Europe based on NMOs? Because we really sincerely believe that this is the most efficient way of working. Yeah, and we hope that you guys will work on this with us. In the end of the manual, there are a thing called the IFMSA Toolbox, and here's the a summary of the updated IFMSA policy statement on trade and health. There's a link to that, and this is this is really important that this is only an unofficial document, and it is not something that is that can be used for advocacy purposes. If you want to use the IFMSA policy statements for advocacy purposes, which they are made for, please use the policy statement, and please use the exact phrases that are in the policy statement as well. So I think about the email you sent as well, we advise you to either attach the regional policy paper or the policy statement for Europe, or the policy statement on trade and health for the whole IFMSA, and put a line about that you are representing your NMO, but you are a member of IFMSA and that you support this policy statement. This would be a way of doing it. Yes. And then in the toolbox there is also the policy statement on trade and health, which you can find the version that we had before August meeting 15 on the website at the moment, and hopefully the newly adopted it was changed to quite a great extent and updated with a lot of information about and background knowledge, which was regarding TTIP as well, specifically. So we advise you to read that once it's up online. Yes, and then furthermore, I will make sure to have the regional policy paper in the end of the TTIP manual back again. Okay. Right. So I think that is all for the manual itself, and we hope to follow up on this and see what you guys end up doing with it. And we really hope that there will be some good engagement. There was a question from Skander, the current SCOF director and the LOPH elect. And I wonder if maybe Stefano, can you read it, and we will answer it all together?
Of course. What Skander is saying, why aren't other NGOs considered as stakeholders in your analysis? It was mentioned in your report that negotiations have been slow thanks to actions of organization. In this case, they can be somehow stakeholders, like ours, and Stop TTIP that advocate about the importance of to think twice before a quick vote. How is the collaboration state with other NGOs is to be decided, as the message to slow the process might be different from others, like in Stop TTIP, so it would be better perhaps to clear out our stance. It might go in line with some organization and not others. So it basically is asking us about the relationships with other NGOs that are still actively advocating for the TTIP campaign.
Right. And maybe I can take a head start, and then some of the other guys can sort of jump in. So we created, as I mentioned, this whole big stakeholder analysis where we first identified all the different stakeholders that were working with TTIP, and then we sort of put them into the 4 different boxes based on influence and interest. And what we figured out was that we believe that both the MEPs have a high influence on this topic, and we also believe that they have sort of like the mandate that they have to listen to the public as well. It is we identified the NMOs as very important, as these we suggest, or we guess, that the NMOs have the same interest as IFMSA, and therefore these are in line with the IFMSA Europe, as well as we actually think that we could have quite a high influence. So therefore we identified these 2 stakeholders as our main stakeholders that we wanted to focus on. So this is for the small working group itself. But apart from that, actually the IFMSA has been working with other NGOs on the side of this. So like the European Public Health Alliance, also known as EFA, have been giving a training session that both me and Alberto, the regional coordinator, and participated in. And then after that, actually, there was an online training which most of us here in the Hangout were attending as well. So we are collaborating with these as well. There was just the WHO Regional Committee for Europe, where all the member states of the WHO Europe meet. And here, Alberto, again, the regional coordinator, had created a statement, a written statement that was submitted, and actually it ended up with a lot of other actors at the WHO Regional Committee supporting this. I think there were more than 10 people or 10 organizations or member states that supported this. So it was a really, really positive way of collaborating with others. And it is definitely something, when we're working with such big things as trade agreements, we have to look at collaborating with other NGOs, in my opinion. That's all for me. Yes, and then I'd like to give the floor to Leith.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Marie said, and I think some really good work has happened on collaboration so far. I think another thing worth mentioning is the collaboration with other stakeholders at a national level. So we are trying to encourage NMOs as much as possible to take the lead on this. We want this to be directed by the NMOs, and so it's very true that each NMO will know the political environment in its country the most, and it would be very encouraged for individual NMOs to take up their own positions and assess how things should work in their own countries. So if each NMO has its own policy statements and its own calibrations with other stakeholders, that will only add to the strength of this. But it also has to come from NMOs because they understand their environment best. So working at both levels, the European, the international, but also the NMO level and the local level as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Christian, do you have some input or no? Okay. Does anybody else have something they would like to add? General, because now I think we will give the audience a bit of time to give questions, and maybe in the meanwhile, I wonder if anyone has something to say.
I could say something. The manual, and I hope I think I can say it like this: the manual is like a process. It's something we work on to give you information we have and you don't, but we think that there will be a point where you have more information than we do, or you know stuff better than we do, and we highly appreciate any feedback you have to improve this manual. If it's something that you don't agree on, or if there's any information that you think it should have, then yeah, you are the experts, or you will be the experts as much as we do if you're interested in the topic. So yeah, this is important to know, I think.
Thank you, Christian. I'm just waiting. I know there's a lack. Okay, yeah, because there is a lack in time between when we are discussing things and when it's aired. So that's why we're just sitting around waiting a bit now. Okay, so we have one more question, and the question is, what have NMOs already done about this? And I'm wondering if anyone in here would like to reply on that. Okay, I can start. So I know that in IMCC, UAM, which stands for Universities Allied for Essential Medicines, they have been focusing a lot on TTIP as well. And they have been running campaigns both in both Aarhus, which is one local committee, and also in Copenhagen. And I think they have really good sort of like strategies for how to campaign, and they are really really competent in this. And they have all of these materials and everything printed out. It's a very different way of working than we usually do in IMCC, but UAM is really really good at it, and therefore that's what I know from the IMCC point of view. And then I think Leith would like to talk from the Medicine UK point of view.
Yeah, so in Medicine UK, we there's been interest around this for a long time, and there have been workshops being run at our national conferences a couple of times, and it's quite interesting to see how this has developed. So the first time that I attended a workshop on this, it was very much just educational, trying to work out what is going on with this and trying to get our head around it, and finding it quite difficult. Really encouragingly, back in March at our latest national conference, we had an attendance of over 20 people at our national conference for the workshop on TTIP, and the engagement went from, we initially were just only talking about kind of education and what is going on with this, and then it turned to, okay, what are we going to do about this? What are we going, how are we going to advocate? And it was a really encouraging thing to see there. And from that, several local groups in Medicine UK have now started their campaigns at a local level. So there are at least 3 different local committees who are doing work on this and collaborating with other NGOs on the topic. So as was discussed earlier with the first question. So just within less than a year, it's changed very much, and there is a lot more engagement on this.
Thank you, Leif. Then I also know that Stefano has written an article about this, and maybe he would like to give some information about that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, the article, it was for me not directly from SysMidley, but of course it was a reflection of what I learned during my previous year in my association. But I know that there were some discussions during our last national General Assembly. So there were groups that talked about that topic during the meeting. So there was discussion about it. And even if there is not a dark strategy or something clearly defined at the national level, so we didn't contact any members of the parliament or the government, we are still working on TTIP on a local level. So I know that there are some local committees that have done some conferences about that. That's it. But of course, after the release of this instrument, it will be easier for them to approach the topic and to learn it and discuss it with the students of the single universities. That's it.
Thank
basically.
you, Stefano. Yeah. Now we have another question from Nathan from Medicine UK. And the question is, should we be working with NMOs outside of Europe, the European region, to work on advocacy because of the negative effects of TTIP extending to outside the EU-US bloc? And I know that Christian has been working on this, so I'd give the floor to Christian.
Yeah, so in the position paper, the European Union of IFMSA agreed on at the European Regional Meeting in Denmark, I think 4 months ago. We said that we would want to collaborate with the American Medical Student Association on this, which makes a lot of sense. Because, well, they are the others who are whose government is involved in the negotiations. So yes, absolutely, at least with the Americans, but also at DGA I got the chance to talk to the Canadian, one of the Canadian medical student, what's the Canadian Medical Student Association, and it seems to be really a global issue, because in the bigger picture that the USA negotiates the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership and Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is a trade agreement with the countries in the west of the USA. And well, the content of the negotiations is it has a striking similarity. It is also a if we do advocacy work on the one thing, then we should also use IFMSA channels to do advocacy work on others, because this seems to be also a global issue.
Thank you, Christian. I know we discussed sort of the side effects of the European region or the European Union and the US having trade agreements and sort of positive or like less trade barriers between these two sort of high income parts of the world, and as well the impact or the negative effects that this would have on some of the low and middle income countries in the world as being outside of such an agreement. Does anybody wanna say something about that, or is this covered okay for now? Mm-hmm. I believe we have another question. Yeah, we have another question, which is, how can we better engage the other groups in our community who are working on relevant issues, climate change, food safety, etc. That and it is expressed as well that currently feels like the ones that working separately, even though many of these sort of policy areas are integrated. Start again. Okay. I'm going again. Sorry. So the question was, how can we better engage the other groups in IFMSA who are working on relevant issues such as climate change, food safety, etc. And it's also expressed that currently it feels like those of us that are working on trade are very much seen as working separately. And this is, of course, because all of these policy areas are sort of interrelated in the trade agreement, but we tend to see them as different parts of global health. Does anyone here? Yeah, Leif would like to answer.
Yeah, I think that's a really important question, and one that well, we do need to do more work on. I think that's important to raise. It recognizes that the same things that we were talking about earlier, social determinants of health, means that everything around us can affect our health. So there are groups working on food. EV, for example, will be something that's affected. Access to medicines we've already talked about. So that raises a really important question, and one that we need to do more work about. An important part, we keep going back to this, but it really is fundamental to this, is that when we have our members on the ground in each NMO working on this, that is what produces the strongest response. So when our grassroots members are the ones that are taking this issue, then that allows for collaboration to happen at all levels, from the local members right up to the highest levels of the IFMSA. So I think, ensuring that this builds into a higher purpose of this being a movement that we all work for, recognizing that we are all part of this, will be really essential. And if anyone has any suggestions about other ways that we can try to do that, and how we can support people to build those links, then do let us know. But yeah, it's definitely a very, very important thing for us to work on.
Okay, thank you, Liz. Right, I think that covers it. So there's a question from Italy now, which is, do we know which have been the strongest and most effective campaigning against TTIP until now? And first of all, I need to express that the IFMSA is not necessarily against the whole TTIP or the whole agreement, but we are against the parts that we have mentioned and that are sort of threatening the health of the populations, right? So maybe I can start with giving my perspective, and I'm wondering if someone else can come in. From what I know in Brussels, where obviously the EU is, or the European Parliament and the Commission is based, the European Public Health Alliance has been really, really strong in making statements, following up with everything, all the rounds of negotiations. And also what I see them as being really good at is reaching out to all their members, which are also NGOs, and then collaboratively or collectively signing statements or press releases or all kinds of different advocacy tools that they're using, as well as them providing these capacity building opportunities, which also sort of gets the ball rolling. Yeah. So from that perspective, that is what I know. I'm wondering if anybody wants to say something about Stop TTIP. Maybe Liz.
So I think, yeah, it's important to raise Stop TTIP. They are a very large coalition of lots of different civil society organizations from all around Europe. This has given them a lot of strength because they are able to, like we're trying to do, mobilize grassroots members from all over Europe to support the vision of stopping TTIP. Now, this is slightly different to what we are doing. We are, as Marie said, focusing on health specifically. So, but it has to be said that it is working effectively. One thing that they did was collect signatures for a petition to stop TTIP, which has collected over 2 million signatures. This is just from European countries, which is a very incredible achievement. Another thing to bear in mind is that it is one of the efforts of some of the effort of the Stop TTIP coalition, which led to a really big consultation happening about ISDS, the Investor-State Dispute Settlement, which was carried out, as I remember correctly, last year, when the European Commission was forced to admit that there hadn't been enough consultation, and they had to open up an open call for input about TTIP. This actually resulted in a huge number of responses, again coordinated by Stop TTIP and lots of groups similar to it around Europe. And again, the focus was grassroots. What can people individually do to build a much bigger picture? And that is a lesson that we can learn, and the lesson that we are trying to replicate. When it's individual members on the ground working on this on a big level, that's what has an impact. And that's the main thing to take away from it. That's the lesson there.
Thank you, Leif. And I actually think that that leads well into the conclusion of this webinar. And I believe, I hope that you have all gotten some new information and new insight or inspiration to work on TTIP. We obviously think it's a really, really important topic, and we believe that there are some things that need to be done to make sure that the health of our countries will be safe also in the future. And also from what Leif just said, we believe that it is important that it's the people that are working on this, that it's not just politicians and the huge role that the big multi-corporate or multinational industries have on this. It is important that the people are listened to and that their concerns are taken into consideration. So therefore, yeah, we advise you to get in touch with your MEPs, and I think that is all from us. Let's say bye. Bye, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for
Bye,
listening,
all.
everyone.
Tschüss.